Hello, my name is Greg Sermons. I pastor a small Baptist church in the city of Lille in North France. I'd like to talk to you about my experience with prostate cancer. In the middle of 2016, my PSA was found to be a little bit high. I had an MRI that saw a urologist. The MRI showed a 10 millimeter tumor in my prostate. The urologist then in the month of June of 2016 did a biopsy. Out of the samples he took, there was 1 millimeter of what was considered a suspicious ductile type cancer, which is a more aggressive type prostate cancer. Well, in France, the results came back the middle of July. And in France, July and August is vacation time. I couldn't see the urologist again until the beginning of September. And during that time, I started reading articles on the internet, looking up prostate cancer, alternative treatments, what are the consequences. And I am very thankful to my God that I had an extra 6 weeks from the middle of July when the results came back until the beginning of September to research, to read books, to understand different possibilities and what could be done. Prostate cancer is generally a very slow-growing type cancer, but the ductile kind was called aggressive. Well, the beginning of September, when I saw the urologist again, immediately he was ready to sign me up for surgery. And in the report, it said suspicion ductile cancer, prostate cancer, carcinoma. But anyway, I said, well, on a suspicion, you're going to do that? And he reluctantly proposed doing a second biopsy, which he did. And this time he really aimed at that nodule that had been seen on the MRI. And he got more samples of the cancer. And it turned out to be what they call Gleason 3 plus 3 equals 6. Now the Gleason score goes from 1 to 5, and then they have two different numbers of evaluating of what's the most and what is the highest. And that's what you get 3 plus 3, and 3 is a moderate. The 1 would be the least aggressive, the 5 would be the most aggressive, and the 3 is right in the middle. So it wasn't the aggressive kind of prostate cancer. I wanted to think about it. I had an appointment to see a radiologist at the local hospital, and went to see the radiologist. He was ready to radiate right away. And I talked to him and I asked him, if I don't do anything, if I don't do anything, how long before I risk having metastasis, which is the big problem with prostate cancer. It's not, as long as it stays within the prostate, it's not particularly dangerous. It's once it gets out of the prostate, metastasis elsewhere in the body becomes very dangerous. And he said, oh, you've got 3-4 years. So I figured I have 3-4 years to try other things and do what they call active surveillance, which means they just keep an eye on it. My regular general practitioner doctor sends me to get MRIs every 6 months, and I do a PSA often. And so anyway, so what I had learned about cancer and in my research is that in every cell we have what they call mitochondria. And I learned about the metabolic approach to cancer. And in each cell, the mitochondria are like little factories that take the fuel and the oxygen and produce ATP, which is the energy that the cell needs to live. And all cancers have a problem with the mitochondria. It doesn't mean the mitochondria doesn't work at all. Probably, this is what I'm suspecting, is that if you have a Gleason score of 1 plus 1, for example, then it's not very aggressive, and the mitochondria are working somewhat. If you have a cancer with Gleason score 5 or 5 plus 5, it's a very aggressive cancer. Probably the mitochondria are not working very well at all. That's my supposition of what I've read and what I'm understanding. But anyway, but what happens is, since the mitochondria do not work correctly, your cancer cells take in 10 to 20 times more sugar, glucose or other types of sugar, and ferment it. Well, this is why the cell takes in so much, gives off lactic acid, and it causes the cell to begin growing in an uncontrolled way, growing, splitting, dividing, causing the genetic mutations that are seen within cancer. You can look it up, metabolic approach to cancer. There's a certain Dr. Thomas Seyfried in Boston I found very interesting. I read a book called Tripping Over the Truth. I recommend that book if you're interested in the subject. But anyway, you do what you feel you should do. I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just telling you what I did. Well, in September, when I went back to see a urologist, I fasted for 13 days, water fasted 13 days, and then went on a diet, a ketogenic type diet, where I took all sugar, all starches out, no bread, no potato, no rice, nothing with sugar, no fruit. I did that for 9 months. I lost a total of 30 kilos, 66 pounds during that time. But during that time, the cancer did not grow. It stayed the same size. Then after that period, I got tired of it. And I said, well, I've been taking these, also taking supplements and some different things. I said, maybe that would keep the cancer in check. So I started eating normally again for 6 months. Well, during that 6 months, the cancer grew 20 to 30%. Went from 10 to 12, 13 millimeters. Then I decided to try a different approach. Also, I've been taking a supplement in parallel. Dr. Lawrence Swartz in Paris has a protocol that I've been following some of the things there. And so I tried that plus other things in 6 months, and the cancer grew. Then I started fasting 4 to 5 days every 3 weeks. And I've done that now for over a year. I didn't quite do it as regularly as I should during part of the year, but over most of this year I've been fasting every 3 weeks, 4 to 5 day water fasting, and the cancer has not grown. So I'm going to continue with my fasting, and I'm also open to other possibilities, but for the moment that's the one that seems that I can have available. There are alternative things I'd like to try. I've tried a number of supplements and vitamins, and I don't know if they've had any effect at all, but I am finding the fasting, because when you fast, your body runs out of sugar, and it will take protein to produce some sugar, but it will take the fat in your body and produce what is called ketone bodies. And ketone bodies do not ferment. So cancer cells can only use them in the degree that their mitochondria are working. But if their mitochondria is not producing enough ATP for a cell, then the cancer cell takes in more sugar, and taking in more sugar, it ferments it and causes to grow and divide and cause tumors. But the metabolic approach is taking into account this difference between healthy cells and non-healthy cells. When you water fast, your healthy cells can use the ketone bodies. They can use them very effectively. It's even better than the glucose. But the cancer cells are in having difficulty. They are being under stress, and it can cause some of the cancer cells to die. I can't promise you that it will cure you of cancer. I have read testimonies on the internet of people who had prostate cancer and who fasted for 30, 40 days and their cancer went away. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll come to that, I don't know. For the moment, I'm fasting every so many weeks, so many days, trying to cause the cancer to struggle and not be able to grow. Seems to be working. We'll see. It's been 2.5 years now since I first was diagnosed with my cancer. It only grew during that 6 months period that I was eating without restriction. And so I am convinced that this is one of the keys to dealing with cancer. I can't promise you that whatever cancer you may have, or your loved one you may have a cancer. I don't know if fasting can help. I have heard on the internet that there are those that say, anyway, that if somebody's going to go through chemotherapy, if they fast 3 days before and 1 day after, that the chemotherapy will have less side effects and be more effective. That's what I've read and heard on the internet. Take it or leave it. You can't believe everything you read on the internet, but there are a lot of good things out there. People are trying alternative approaches. And personally, I'm convinced there are multiple ways of treating cancer. I'm not saying that the standard of care is surgery or radiation or chemo or hormone or whatever is never to be used, but whatever you're using, look into the possibility of using the metabolic aspect of cancer to treat it. Anyway, that's where I am. I am using the therapeutic fasting, and I believe that is having an effect. We'll see what happens, and I'm hoping that the cancer is not going to progress, not going to grow, and that's going to stay under control. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that God will help you with whatever cancer situation you may have. Thank you. Bye.